Conversations with Iris. Here's your host, my loving wife, Iris.
Hola, mi gente bonita. Hello, beautiful people, beautiful souls, beautiful individuals, and welcome back to Conversations with Iris, the little podcast that could. I always like to say that because we started out very, very little and we're doing great things, which I love. This is the space where we sit down with incredible individuals who are not just talking about change. That's what I love about the show. They're out there doing their thing. They're creating, they're shaping, and living things every single day. I just love bringing people with pizzazz, sazon, as I like to say, that just make you think about life and just, change your soul a little bit. It's just kind of fun like that. And I always want to take a moment and say thank you to you. Yes, to you for listening, downloading, growing with me. Because of you, this podcast only continues to grow, reaching a lot of different hearts, a lot of different souls and minds all around the world. And I don't take that lightly. I am just blessed. I am so blessed to hear that. I just had a friend that told me last week, she's like, you know what? I love Fridays. I love logging into your show and listening to you. It makes my Friday better when I'm heading to work. That just made my heart like proud, happy, rainbows and everything. So just the little things like that just make a difference. But let me tell you about today's conversation. Today, I'm going to have the pleasure of interviewing a wonderful individual. We're going to sit down with Doug Fleener, a national recognized speaker, a business expert, and someone who has dedicated his career to helping businesses grow smarter. And not just smarter, but bigger, which I love. Doug is known for his practical strategies. We're talking about real world insight and his ability to help companies, especially in retail and service industry, just create meaningful customer experiences that actually drive results, which is like the biggest thing, right? He's not about the fluff. That's what I like. I like real talk. I like real people. He's about what works, okay? I'm going to repeat that again. He's about what works. And what I love most about his work is how he blends that strategy and that human connection and blends all that in. Because at the end of the day, business is still about people, right? It really is. It really is about people. So without further ado, please help me welcome to Conversations with Iris, Doug Fleener. Bienvenidos. How are you?
Oh, hello, Iris. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. I hope that was a good introduction there. And you are a guy of a lot of traits. I love this.
Hey, before we get started, I just have to say that one of the reasons I definitely reached out to you was because of the introduction of the podcast. That opening voice is incredible. And then when he goes, my loving wife, I was like, I've got to get on this podcast.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for that. You just made my heart soar and sparkle. I'm telling you right now, that's my hubby and we are a team. And he's the manager behind the scenes, So, but I'm
He's got a great voice. Keep a look out for him.
Oh my God. Well, thank you so much for that. That just made me so happy. But Doug, before we get into the business side of things, okay, I want to just start here. When people hear your name in the industry, what's that one thing you hope they instantly associate you with? I got to know.
Yeah, I would say, I think what really is different and I want them to think about is immediate change and growth.
I like that. I like that. And why is that?
Well, my backstory, which we can get into, was, but I was an alcoholic and addict, and my life fell apart, and I had to make change immediately, and big change, right? Or I was going to die. And one of the things that through all my work has been is that we don't need months, years to change. All we need is the right intention and the right moment to then change and grow in whatever, whether it's business or in our personal life. It's there, may not be complete change, but you can start it right now.
So it sounds like it's never too late. So tell us a little bit about you. Who is Doug? Take us back a little bit and let's unpack those layers high level and tell our listeners who you are and what got you into this.
Yeah, I like to always joke that in high school, I would have been voted least likely to succeed,
Oh,
although
geez. Don't poke
although
at that stuff.
although I was voted wittiest of my senior class, so and that was probably my greatest achievement of all in school. But I grew up. I have two brothers, and my parents divorced at an early age, and my mother worked nights, so there was three boys. So it was a pretty crazy life. And by age 13 or so, I was already getting high and drinking. Um, and so that's really was my story. And I, all through I went to college. Um, there I dropped out. So, one of the things was that I had to look back on is that I was a quitter. I was a liar. I was a thief.
Mm.
And at the age of 28 years old, I bankrupted a family business from stealing.
Oh, no.
And so my life fell apart at 28. Blew it up, and we were just talking about being in Florida. I had a marine supply store in Jupiter, and I was stealing money to buy drugs from the drug runners who were actually, because it was in the 80s, so it was like the Miami Vice days. And so I had to rebuild my life, and I went on to achieve things I never believed and knew I could achieve. And so, what I've tried to look at is what are the things that made that possible, and share that with as many people as I can.
And I love that. And you mentioned Miami Vice days that you wear the crazy outfits and colorful colors and the hats. Did you have a fashion, thing going on back then as well?
Well, actually, I say I went the other way. I worked at a marina, so I went. I placed a bet one time with a guy that I could go an entire year without putting pants on, that I could wear shorts 365 days, and I was determined to win that bet. So I showed up at Christmas time wearing shorts, and Thanksgiving, and my
Why
father was
not?
like, "Yeah, really?" And so, but I went to work by boat, and it was just it was a crazy time. And I'm
Mm.
grateful that I lived through it.
I just feel like sometimes those times just kind of like shape and mold you to the person that you are right now. And I appreciate you giving us a little insight of who Doug is and your humble beginnings. But let's take it even more back for a moment. I mean, what initially just pulled you into the spaces of just helping those businesses grow? I mean, you mentioned at age 28, you live and learn from your lessons, as you mentioned to the audience, but what is it about that helping businesses just grow, just improving customer service? I mean, what was that defining moment when you realized this is what I'm supposed to do?
Well, I was actually director of retail for Bose Corporation, and we instituted a new type of retail where we were doing music shows inside this store, and we were using music and product reveals, and we really were doing something completely different. And most retail at that point had really just been excuse me, about the commoditization of product, right? Just, buy and, you
Yeah.
buy product and you sell it, and you're lucky if you get any service.
Yeah.
And, but right, there was this thing called the internet coming fast. And, what I realized was, and I learned at Bose and started to carry forward is that it wasn't going to be just the selling of the product, but it was going to be about the overall customer experience and how you made people feel. And then when I started to look at it, right, is we knew, I could tell right away is right that, and I wish I'd made this quote up, but I didn't, but I'll claim it because I don't know who said it. Right.
Say it.
Is
Why not? Yeah, it's yours now. Why not?
exactly. But well, I always do that just in case a person listening might be like, "Hey, that's mine." But I heard someone, I read one time, someone said, you can't ask people to give service with a smile until you give them something to smile about.
Mm.
Right. So it's not just about the customer. It's not just about the product, but it's also about the people and how they all come together. And I left Bose in 2001 and worked with retailers and college stores and all kinds of retailers and any companies interested in customer experience to really look at it from a different way. And honestly, I think the key is we overcomplicate success. We overcomplicate things. Einstein said there's brilliance in simplicity. And so I think the simpler we make our strategies and we make the way we work, I think the more successful we are.
And I like how you mentioned that there's brilliance and simplicity. That's so true, though. So it sounds like you've always had this entrepreneurial mindset, it seems like. Would you say that? Would you say so? Like, it's like you're very business oriented and, driven, which helped you pay that way to help these other businesses. Would you say that?
I would say I moved into that. I would say is before that point, I would have felt like a fraud. I would have felt like I didn't have that to offer people. I was a college dropout. There were just, I had a lot of stories that I could tell myself about why I was less than. And, but one of the things is I got a little lucky with a gentleman I worked with. I worked hard. And I think most important is that I really started to create really a learning lifestyle. So every day I tried to learn and I tried to be better than I was the day before. And that is really what created what I was able to do is I just each day I wake up, I still try to do today. How can I be just a little better than I was yesterday?
And I like how you mentioned that because I always like to say that there's always opportunity for growth for you to improve yourself in some way or shape or form. You have to have some type of goals, a mindset. There's always room for you to basically get better at something, right? Or learn something. I feel like I'm always learning something every day. It's just, I love learning by the
Mm.
fact that I just love that. So let
Yeah,
me,
I was just gonna say that I think the
no,
difference is
please.
for a lot of people is that right there's kind of this where there's awareness and there's action. So for most people, they have an awareness that they can be better at something they can do, but they don't take the action. And I think the missing point is right is if you have the intention of being better on a daily basis, you will achieve it. So it really starts with your daily intentions.
That's so true. And let me ask you now, I want to get into like the businesses part of it. Like, what is going on right now with society? And I want to bring this up because, I mean, you worked with so many different businesses out there, but I feel like we see a lot of these retail places, a lot of businesses going bankrupt today and days or closing up shops or I mean, I could just bring them up like Wendy's, one of them, Arby's, all these other crazy entities that we know out there. It's like, man, we would have never thought that that would happen to them. But from your experience, I mean, what's the one biggest mistakes you see companies making today when it comes to like that growth and offering that continued customer experience?
Yeah, and there's no doubt. I think we have to kind of table set that it's pretty hard out there, right? In business
It
and
is.
for families. Uh, we can poo-pah the price of gas or something, but it's hard, right? The costs have been going up on everything,
Mhm.
and I think one of the biggest things is that what happens is that they start to have this external view of why they're struggling versus the internal and what are we going to do about it. I love to tell my clients and anyone who will listen to me, right, that you can't change what you don't own. You can't change what you don't own. So I can't change what's happening with the economy, right? I
Yeah.
can't change but if all of a sudden there's a new traffic pattern and people aren't coming into my stores, into my business. But what I can own is what actions and what I'm going to do about it. And I think that those just so much more critical today because of just the competition. I mean, I have a client and a friend who she always says, retail ain't for sissies.
It's not. It's crazy. It's crazy out there.
Yeah, and same for restaurants, right? And
Yeah.
all these other businesses.
Mm. I don't think that people understand unless you worked in the retail business how hard it is. Let me tell you something. I used to work for a prominently owned, like very big known retail place. And it's just like, it is insane. People get on your face and people fighting. And, that takes me to another point you had mentioned. I mean, having a business out there is hard today and days. It really is because we have that little thing called costs and, cost keeps going up higher. I mean, what do you suggest to these businesses out there to help stay relevant when it comes to keeping costs into consideration, especially with market out there?
Yeah, and boy, it's been so hard. I was like, every article you read,
It
you
is.
you 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 see these small businesses, especially who, right, they just don't think they can pass along those higher costs, maybe because they're just trying to hold on to their customers, and they're just getting so squeezed. And and my recommendation is that don't I think we can get very industry myopic, right? That I'm so focused on what I sell. And instead I like to look at, you know, who are my customers and how can I better serve them? And that's where you see that people start to expand maybe a little bit of their product offering, or go deeper in a particular area or a particular age group. But I think the more it's tougher in there, I just think the more you just got to double down on really being customer centric.
Mm. It's kind of like knowing your audience, it sounds like. What is your purpose? What are you selling? What's the intended audience for what you're selling? Is that what you're telling our listeners?
Yeah, and and the other thing I would just say is that, and this is especially true for small business, is do you know who that customer's name is? Do you know how to reach them again? Can you pull them back in? Can you make that connection? And one of the things that I think small business especially have never have done as well as big business is really capturing that customer information. And if you have a really good group of dedicated customers, you don't need a ton of them. You just keep serving those customers even with more offerings and more ways to bring them back in.
Mm. And I like how you mentioned that, like focusing on capturing that customer level experience, making it better, making sure that you're targeting that indicated audience that you want to sell the product for. But my thing is this, like when we're talking about business and strategies and game changing and all that, I mean, what are those two or three simple but powerful things that businesses could start doing that would just immediately just help them like connect with customers a little bit more deeper? We don't want to sell things at a loss, right? So what would be your suggestion?
Well, the first thing when I work with people is one of the things I look at is we have a tendency to go to, oh, I need more customers. And really, the point I would go to is, well, how do I sell more to the customers that I have? And then how do I maximize each one of their visits? And there's sadly there's a big gap between what people what companies think they do and what really that happens. And one time I was in a store, and they had these kind of their seven things about the customer, and it was on this beautiful board, and like we serve and we do this, right? And nobody talked to me.
Oh my god, really?
Right. Right. And so, there's, you have to make sure that we're maximizing every opportunity. And, and my work today is one of the things I like to work with is I like to work with the leaders in this moment where it's a crossroad of leadership and driving business. And right. And so one of the things is we can typically find is that if I can come in and find something for you to do better, you can find that yourself. So if you develop as a leader, you can develop your business. And where I was going to go with that is if you really look at the how customers interact with your business and where they make their purchase, again, whether it's in food or whether it's in retail, what have you, is somewhere in there is a moment that you can increase not only how much the customer buys, but it's going to give the customer even more satisfaction and pleasure.
Let me tell you something, and I just thought about this. Sheen online. That's a website that I shop so much for. Like I buy so much clothes there, and I know they're like international, but they're very slick. Every single day they send me messages. Hey, you have $30 credit. Hey, we saw that you like these pants. Buy this. It's like very persistent, but then again, it's kind of like it makes you look at it like, wow, I like those pair of pants and these are similar but a different color. They like know you. I feel like Amazon, that's kind of like the same thing as well, a little bit of that. So it's funny how you said that you want to maximize that sell or that opportunity when you get when you have the initial sell, maximize it. What else, what other offerings you could offer? So as from me, from the other side of the spectrum as a consumer, I feel like I see that. I see that. I mean, simple as a website called Shein. I see it in retail stores right now. It's like I went to Kohl's the other day. Check this out. I went to spend my Kohl's cash. Oh, you can save another 30% off if you open up a credit card and they show you the amount, that little game that they play. I'm like, no, I'm okay. Hell no. I'll stick with my
Right.
regular purchase. But I like how you say that because that is so true. You got to figure out ways to maximize that potential.
Yeah, and when we're talking, again, if we're talking the small business, the brick and mortar,
Yeah.
or even online, right? That what they, it's tough for them, right, to compete with the Sheen and those because, right, they're about volume, they're about lower price, but customers want to do business with local people where they're appreciated. I think one of the things some really smart retailers have done have expanded the store experience outside the four walls. And I'll give you two examples. One is I have a client that I worked with, and she does these weekly Facebook Lives.
Oh,
And
wow.
right. And so from the store, she's got this wonderful staff. She's so personable, and she just has hundreds of people showing up on a weekly basis to buy from her store without going to her store. But but it's not a website, right? It's her. And that's what people
Mm.
are really connected to. And then I have another one who's a friend of mine who she she has a women's clothing store, and she knew that she needed to expand this store, but she didn't want to go into all these locations. So I love what she did. She bought this big truck and created a mobile store. And so she goes to all these events and, on farmers markets and all these things. So she has a regular store and she brings another store to there. And that's the
That's
kind of
awesome.
thinking, right, that
Mhm.
you got to do today.
Yeah, it's kind of like thinking outside the box to better promote your business. I feel like you really got to get very creative today and days, especially when businesses are hard. From your perspective, in your thoughts or words, whatever you want to call it, I feel like we're talking about things that you got to do to stand out. But what would you say that truly separates that business or people who succeed or those who struggle to stand out? It has to be more than that, just customer service experience. What is it that makes them more stand out?
Well, I would say is the ones that I know is that they have a owner and they have a staff who really understands how, again, where they bring value. Yeah, I did I met some people once who in a franchise, and they were in a, I'm trying not to use give it too much example, so in case they hear the podcast, but they were in an industry that I think the only reason they went in the industry is because they left corporate America, they had a parachute and they needed a business, so they bought this franchise, right? And so when you walked into their stores, it didn't have the passion, right? It didn't have the connection. And so I think that the big thing today is that the owner, or whether it's the store manager, but the leadership of any business has to be so engaged with that connection between the employees and the customer and the offering. And
Mm.
and I think leadership matters more than ever. And and so when you have passionate owners, they're still succeeding.
Yeah. Yeah. Leadership does matter too. And when you're passionate about something, I feel like the message is different, right? It's like you really truly believe product of the product. That's another thing too. You got to be product of the product. If you're selling MAC cosmetics, you can't be using what is it, Revlon out there. You can't be using other. That's kind of like my mindset. I've always learned that working in pharmaceutical sales myself, I'm not going to sit here and use all the drugs that I sell, but you got to be product of the product. You got to really believe and love and be passionate about what you're selling. I love that you mentioned that. Let me ask you something, Doug. As you look at where you are today, I mean, you built a lot of great things. I mean, coaching these businesses, helping them thrive, helping them think outside the box. I think that's just so admirable. But what is something you learn along the way for yourself that you wish you could have known sooner?
Boy, great question. Great question. Um, I, I think for me, probably it's a couple things. One is that you don't have to. You can be the incredible leader. You can be credible business owner, and still maintain the type of home life that you want. I think sometimes, especially right now, businesses are just asking more and more of people. And I think one of the things that I make sure, and I didn't get this originally, is that that it's our home life, and it's the connections we make, whether it's at home, whether it's at church, whether it's in the gym,
Yeah.
right? All those things shape who we are, so we can be even better in that work experience. And I think right now we're just asking people to do too much. And so I like to challenge that. And real fast, quick story is I when I ran that store and and I was a store manager, and we were growing the stores. And I had this woman who, she was a single mom with 2 kids, and she worked so hard, but she had no family in the area, right? So something always came up with the kids. And
Mhm.
and and I was in my late 20s, and I was wanting to get ahead, and I'd be kind of on her butt, come on,
Good.
I need you here and what have you. And then when I had my own children, I I tracked her down, and I called her up and said, "I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
I I could have been a much more thoughtful manager on what you were doing." So, people struggle, think they can't find people to work for them. I think you get what you attract.
I think that is so true. That is very true. And I like how you bring that up. I mean, from your perspective, what are you currently working on? Like, I'm excited to know like what's in store for Doug in the future. Or can you also just tell us like what makes you excited about what we should be paying attention now in our society? I know that's like two questions, but I'm trying to think about it. It just came up in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, those are definitely 2 questions. So what I'm excited about right now is I have a book out this year called Start with What If, weekly questions to spark immediate change and growth. And what I'm really teaching people there is how to create perspective, how to and give yourself more options. And when you can start to master that, it opens up so much, right? That you don't have to react, or you don't have to listen to the stories you've told yourself. And so, I'm real excited about sharing that. And one of the things I've done with that is I've created a YouTube video, and it's also on TikTok. So say a video series called Change Your Day in 30 Seconds. And
Mm.
then I have another one that is Lead Better in 30 Seconds. And so, what I'm really excited about is really taking this message about ownership, about change, and about growth, and really just making it actionable. And whether it's working with retailers, whether it's working with small business, whether it's working for large companies, which I do as well, right? It's we don't have business iris and personal iris, right? We have
Yeah.
iris,
Yeah.
right? And so when we can help Iris, show her how to grow, how to be more. And I know you talk about this all the time because I've listened to your podcast, right? And so, when you can inspire people, but those are the things. So what I'm looking right now is really just kind of helping people find that point in their that they can take themselves just a little better. And again, I think it's around really learning to change your perspective.
Yeah, you mentioned that too. Let me ask you, for our listeners that are listening right now, that they're just listening, they want to get started in their business. They're leaving the corporate America. And that was a great example that you gave, by the way, with the two individuals there that you mentioned about corporate America starting their own. But what if we have listeners out there that are in the same boat, listening right now, and they feel stuck, whether their business is not thriving where they're supposed to? What advice, what's that little message that you would like for them to take away?
Yeah, well, I think it was kind of like a little two part there, right? So if you're in a job right now, right, and you're thinking maybe to take some jump or what have you, I just think it's so important to do what you're passionate about. Life is too short to do the wrong thing, and especially, I know a guy. I love what he says for people who are self-employed. He says, a lot of self-employed work for really crappy managers, right? And
Mm.
he's talking about themselves, right? They're
Yeah.
they're crappy owners to themselves, and so start with passion, and I think I can just tell you, I'm not a young man, but in a blink, life can happen pretty fast, and so do things that allow you to be who you are in a way that really fires you up, and I just think that's just so important. And the other thing I would just say is there's so many opportunities today with online and being a creator. There's so much, but test and try a lot of things.
Yeah, life is short. I'm telling you. You nailed that. I mean, one day we could be here and then the other we cannot. And I feel like, hey, we still got a long way to go, right? Why not? Give yourself an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't take dumb risk,
Right.
right? I've had a few people who unfortunately, when you do what I do, a lot of people only reach out when they're struggling, and I'm like, wait, you spent your entire life savings on a business that's gone nowhere for 5 years.
Wow.
Best answer I ever got. Well, person goes, well, I want to leave it to my family, and I'm like, they don't want to be losing money,
They
right?
don't. They don't want to deal with that mess and the
Yeah,
headache.
if you had a profitable business, they'd be happy to.
Mm.
I love
And
that.
as we transition here to a closure, Doug, I mean, this has been great. I mean, you gave us so much to think about and a lot of perspective, especially when owning a business and how to make it thrive, things that we should consider. We want to make sure that our listeners are following you, following your work. You mentioned that you have a beautiful book out there. Is it written already or you're almost done
Yep.
with it?
Nope,
Okay.
it's out. Went out in
Start
January.
with what if. So and then you also mentioned that you have TikToks, change your day in 30 seconds and all that good stuff. But where can our listeners find you, connect with you, and follow your journey?
Well, what I would like them to do is I want to give them the framework of my book. And so if they will go to the website startwithwhatif.com, when you land on that page, you can sign up for a 44-page excerpt of the book. And I give you all the chapters that are really the meat of the book on changing and using what I call the what if rule. And so go there, and then by getting the excerpt, and you can put it in your Kindle, you can get a PDF, you can get it in any format you want. Um, and then that will sign you up for my weekly newsletter. But I really want them to read this excerpt or the entire book.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I appreciate that you have that out there for your book so that we could all tune in and, look into that. Doug, I just want to thank you so much for this beautiful conversation, for being here. I feel like this was such a valuable and insightful conversation. I truly appreciate your time and everything you shared with us. This has been phenomenal.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Oh, of
Enjoyed it so
course.
much.
Oh, of course. And to my listeners, I want to leave you with this. If this episode spoke to you, I know it did. make sure you send it to someone who needs to hear it. I hear it all the time. Hey, I sent my episode, or you said you send the episode to somebody that needed to hear it. All that stuff is great. Just keep doing it because it helps continue to thrive and have great conversations like this. Con mucho amor, this has been Conversations with Iris. Thank you all. Much love. Bye-bye.